last week we were counting the numbers and how many psukim there are in the Torah and how many letters. And today we're going to speak more about the Torah study and dealing with our Yetzer Hara. Hashem gave us a Yetzer Tov and a Yetzer Hara. So how do we deal with it? We have this evil inclination. We're inclined to do different things which are unwanted. You know, how do we deal with our other half, the Yetzer Hara? Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught. The Gemara in the previous Siman expounded the verse, "You shall teach them the words of Torah thoroughly." And the Gemara here quotes a brisa that expounds this verse differently. Tana Rabbanan, Vishinantam. So we say this every day, a couple of times, Vishinantam.
Smack them in the teeth.
In their teeth. The rabbis taught in a brisa. The pasuk says, "You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them." From here we learn that the words of Torah should flow articulately from your mouth. So this is an interesting word, vishinantam. It doesn't say velimadatam. That it says a little bit later. But what does this word shinantam? What does the word shanan? What's the source, the root of the word? So if you look at footnote 3, literally the words of the Torah should be sharp in your mouth. That's what vishinantam. The Gemara understands the word vishinantam comes from the root shanan, to sharpen. You could even use it.
It came from shinayim, teeth.
Shinayim.
Therefore you should blunt their teeth, it says in Haggadah.
Yeah.
Using the same Hebrew word.
The word shein, it's in there. But over here, shanan is to sharpen. Hake yeshinav, right? To blunt the teeth. So I wonder what the connection would be over here between shinayim. It says you have to articulate it. So that's also, I guess, it goes through your teeth, your tongue, your teeth, your mouth. Right?
Yeah.
This means the words of Torah should be so clear in your mind that if asked a question about them, you'll be capable of responding without hesitation. One accomplishes this by constantly reviewing his learning and plumbing its depth. So, vishinantam, you got to have it quick. You know, whenever someone asks you a question, it's on top of your head. You're able to respond right away because you review it often. In addition, included in this requirement is the need to have a clear understanding of the details of each part of the Torah and not to have only a general understanding of them. So not just a superficial understanding, but to really get it. So this is why the Torah uses the words. This is why the Torah uses the words vishinantam, that the words of Torah should be mechudadim, they should be sharp, like you sharpen your knife. So the words of Torah.
Listen, I'm just going to take that ice out.
Should be, a person should know it thoroughly. And the Gemara gives an example, such that if someone asks you something, you should not need to hesitate before answering him. Rather, answer him immediately. The words in the Gemara is al tegamgem. Tegamgem literally means to stutter. So someone who doesn't have things clear would be kind of stuttering, or you won't have the answer right away. So vishinantam is the opposite. And now we're going to bring a pasuk from Mishlei, which shows how fluent and how clear a person should be in the study of Torah. So on the next page, there's a pasuk in Mishlei that says, "Say to wisdom, you are my sister." So that's an interesting comparison. Why would we call wisdom achot, my sister? The end of the pasuk is, "and call understanding a friend." So that part fits better. That is, one should be as familiar with understanding as he is with his friend. So there's two halves of this pasuk. The first half says, "Amar lachachma achoy siat," that wisdom should be like your sister. At the end of the pasuk, it says that the wisdom should be close to you like a friend. So which half of the pasuk is the proof? So one says that it's from the part that the Gemara doesn't quote, because it says, etc., v'gomer. And that is the source that you should be familiar with Torah, like calling it like a friend. But what's funny is that the Gemara brings only the first half of the pasuk. If that was the proof, it should bring the end of the pasuk about a friend. The Gemara only says about the sister. So what does the sister have to do with this? So let's look at the footnote 6. See Rashi here, second explanation. Alternatively, the Gemara is expounding the first part of the pasuk. That is, one should be expert in the entire Torah as he is in the law that his sister is forbidden to him. So if someone asks you a question, are you allowed to marry your sister? Right? You don't have to hesitate. You're like, straight out, no. So the same way you're so clear in that halacha, the whole Torah should be just like the law of marrying your sister. That's how the Gemara understands it. Amar lachochma achoisiat, which still leaves us with questions because we know there's a lot of forbidden relations. So why would they pick sister out of all of them? There's your mother. There's there's so many other ones.
Mother-in-law.
Yeah, and Parshas Acharei we read on Yom Kippur goes through all the different ones you're not allowed to marry. So here's an example where Torah is so clear, it's like your sister. And then it says in a previous pasuk, bind them on your fingers. This is also talking about Torah, and it says you should tie them on your finger. It sounds like tefillin, but that is, the words of Torah should be so clear to you that you can understand the teaching someone is conveying, even without his using words, but merely with finger motions. You should be able to get the hint just from moving your fingers like this or like that. That's how clear the Torah should be to you. Then it continues, inscribe them on the tablet of your heart. That is, one should engrave the words of Torah indelibly upon his memory in order not to forget them. So here we see again how the Torah should become part of you. It's not just something that you learn and you forget. It's something that you take to heart.
You learn something by heart.
Yeah. And here we bring a few psukim from Tehillim, things that are sharp. It says, like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of youth. So we're comparing arrows to children. What is the connection? That is, one's students are like the arrows a warrior uses to shoot at his enemies. From the verse's comparison of students to arrows, we learn that one must sharpen his student's intellect just as a warrior sharpens his arrows. In the Gemara, we find a lot of times that they ask questions, the rabbis ask questions to their students, which were not real questions, but lachadude, the same word over here, to sharpen their minds, to wake them up, to catch their attention. So this is what the pasuk is saying, that we're comparing students to arrows. Just like you have to sharpen your arrows, you have to make sure that your students are sharp, that they get it. Now we're going to bring a proof. How do we know that arrows need to be sharp? We're saying we're taking for granted that students are like arrows, but how do we know that arrows need to be sharp? That arrows must be sharp we see from the following two psukim. It's really in the same kapitel. It says, the sharp arrows of the mighty, and another pasuk says, your arrows are sharp, nations fall beneath you. So it's all in the same kapitel, speaking about arrows and saying that the arrows are sharp. After proving that arrows must be sharp, the Gemara returns to the psukim comparison between a master's students and a warrior's arrows. It says immediately after the above comparison, praiseworthy is the man who fills his quiver with them. They shall not be shamed when they speak with enemies in the gate. So if your arrows are sharp, you got all your arrows, then you'll not be embarrassed even when you speak with your enemies. That is, praiseworthy is the master who filled his quiver with students who can be converted to sharpened arrows. Such students will never be put to shame when debating with other Torah scholars, that is, enemies in the gate. So if you read this part of this kapitel, the Psalm in Tehillim, it seems like it's talking about, David HaMelech and his enemies, or enemies of the Jewish people, but we're really talking about Torah scholars, and they are called enemies, because when you get into a heated debate, they could be, it could get pretty intense, so you have to pull out your arrow, this person pulls out this proof, this pulls out another proof. So that's Oivim Bashar. So once we mentioned that when you study Torah, it could even be called enemies. We're going to go into that a little bit. The Gemara explains the last section of the verse. What is meant by the enemies in the gate? Why are Torah scholars called enemies? Rav Chia bar Abba said, because even a father and his son, or a teacher and his student, become enemies when they study Torah together. So even though they have a very close relationship, but they take the Torah so personal that we said before, you take
Like
it.
a chess game.
Yeah. So that could cause conflict. Since each one is engaged in attacking the other's position. So this sounds very harsh, but in spite of this initial hatred, they do not part without becoming devoted friends. This is the good side of it, that at the end we make peace.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very Jewish thing, So in science, to a certain extent, is that the goal isn't to defeat another person. The goal is to seek the truth and you present your side, theirs, back and forth, back and forth. Kevin and I do that a lot. But the goal is to arrive at an answer upon which both parties can agree through proof or persuasion.
Right, so at the end of the day, we're looking for the emes, we're looking for the truth.
Exactly.
So why are we fighting so hard if we're both searching for the truth?
But that's a fighting is more a euphemism for digging deeply. No, to prove number one. First, you have to arrive at a point of opinion and an approach that you think legitimately, not that it's there to harm the other guy, but to seek the truth. And if somebody else finds an alternate method to get to where they think is the same truth, so then you duke it out and you argue, and hopefully one makes a compelling argument to the other, and they find the truth as well as they can.
Yeah, that's true. So it's because they're seeking for truth that each one takes it to the extreme. We find this by the students of Rabbi Akiva. It says that they did not respect each other enough. And it says, why did they not respect each other? It's because of their search for the truth. Each one felt that what they were saying, their approach to Torah or to service of Hashem, that was like the ultimate truth, and that's the only way to go about it.
It means they stop listening.
So then how could I respect my friend if he's not on the true path that I found? And then his friend also felt that also to the extreme, that I'm on the true path and my friend is not, so how could I respect him? But ultimately at the end, we come to the final truth, and then they make peace. So that's the way of the Torah. So we start with taking out our arrows, sharpening our arrows, but at the end, we make peace. And how do we know that the rabbis make peace at the end? And this is a pasuk from Bamidbar. It says in the book of Wars of Hashem, regarding the miracle that he granted at the Sea of Reeds. The words in the Torah are Es Vahev Besufa. So it says, do not read this as is written Vahev Besufa, he granted at the Sea of Reeds. Rather read it as it were written Vahev Besaifa, beloved in the end. So the word Suf could be like Yam Suf, like the Sea of Reeds, but it could also mean Saif, it could be at the end. So Vahev also comes from the word Va'ahavta, like to love. And it's interesting, if you take the two words Es Vahev and you switch it around, it turns into V'ahavta.
Very good.
Es Vahev, it turns into V'ahavta. So the Ahavta B'Saifa, at the end, it turns into love. Thus the verse discusses wars waged with books, that is, debates between Torah scholars. Such debates, although they begin acrimoniously, end in mutual love. So this is about Talmudic
Acrimonious.
acrimoniously.
Bitterness.
Acrimonious.
Bitterness.
Acrid.
Yeah. So this was about Vishinantam, about Torah study and how it starts in a way of a war, like a milchama. Then at the end, they turn into the ahavta, turns into love.
That's a picture over there.
Yeah,
Looks like they're into it.
Oh, yeah.
that's in the war part. Right?
War party.
And here's the guy saying,
That's not the pshat, right?
the guy back one.
That's what I hate. Okay, moving along, some more about the Torah. Page 40. The Gemara quotes another brisa regarding Torah study. Tanu Rabbanan, V'samtem. So this is all in the Shema. So we started off with Vishinantam, and now we're going to V'samtem. V'samtem is in V'hayam Shemaya, right? So the rabbis taught in a brisa. The pasuk says regarding Torah study, you shall place these words of mine upon your heart and upon your soul. Halavavcha. So the words for you shall place is v'samtem. Homiletically, we may divide this word into two and read it as sam-tum, a perfect drug. So that's what Torah is. Torah is the perfect drug. Although if we notice, they changed it from a sin to
I was gonna ask that.
from a sin to a samach, but it sounds the same. They're they're interchangeable.
And this is in Gematria too, if I'm not mistaken.
In gematria, they're very far. Sin would be
I think you're allowed to make.
you're allowed to make that switch for
compound
gematria.
changes.
Okay. So Torah is the perfect drug, one that affects a total.
Don't quote me on it.
Okay, that affects a total cure. And so what does it mean? Sam-tum. It's a complete one, a complete cure. The Torah is compared to a life-giving drug. Now they should advertise this for Torah. This is the best medicine, the best drug out there.
Sell it to Pfizer.
It's a
Put it
life.
on TV.
Yeah.
They charge $1,500.
If we got
Torah reading.
Yeah, that would remove Torah from the matter.
this can be demonstrated with a parable. So what do we mean here by the perfect one? A man struck his son with a powerful blow. Upon dressing the wound, he said, "My son, as long as this dressing remains on your wound, eat what you like, drink what you like, and bathe in either hot or cold water. You need not fear that doing so will harm the wound, because the dressing will protect it." And the words in the Gemara is ritia. Ritia is more like a band-aid, or it's something that they call it a dressing over here.
A wound dressing is a bandage.
It's pretty much, yeah. So he's saying as long as the bandage is on the wound, you don't have to worry. You could eat whatever you want, drink what you want, shower how you want. If, however,
Just to be crystal clear, we're not talking about dressing like clothing.
right, it's specifically on a wound.
A bandage wrapped around the
Yeah,
wound is a dressing.
yes. If, however, you remove this dressing, your wound will break out in sores. So what is the mashal over here? What's the nimshal? Similarly, the Holy One, blessed is He, said to Israel, "My sons, I have created the evil inclination." It's like the father striking the son. In the mashal, we said that the father was the one who struck the son. Hashem gave us the wound. Hashem gave us the Yetzer Hara. And I have created Torah as its antidote. If you involve yourselves with the Torah, you will not be delivered into the hands of the evil inclination. So this is very interesting, that Hashem is creating the wound and creating the band-aid. The band-aid for the Yetzer Hara is the Torah. That's the drug, that's the cure. Surely, if you improve yourselves, you will be forgiven. As it says, we bring this is from last week's Parsha. Surely, if you improve yourself, you will be forgiven. The words in the Torah are, Im tetiv se'es. If you will do good, you will be able to rise above it. The Brisa expounds this to mean if you involve yourself with good, that is Torah, which is called lekach tov, a good teaching, you will overcome your evil inclination. This is what Hashem said to Cain. When Cain, he killed his brother Hevel, and he was worried. He's like, what's going to be with me? I did such a terrible sin, and Hashem is saying that I'm going to have to be exiled wherever I go. I'm not going to be able to settle. Hashem said, don't worry. Im teitiv, if you will do good, se'es, which means, according to the Gemara, if you study Torah, you will be able to rise above it. You will be able to rise above the Yetzer Hara. But if you do not involve yourselves with the Torah, you will be delivered into the hands of the evil inclination. As the pasuk continues, but if you do not improve yourself by involving yourself in Torah, sin rests at the door. It's waiting right for you.
And it's crouching, ready to attack.
Yep, and you will be unable to overcome it. Furthermore, the evil inclination will concentrate his entire activity toward enticing you. So the Yetzer Hara is out to get you. And the pasuk says over there, the pasuk continues, you are its desire. That's what the Yetzer Hara has in mind. But even if you have already been overcome by the evil inclination, you can, if you wish, still conquer it by repenting and involving yourself with Torah. As the pasuk continues, nevertheless, you will conquer it. So this is the struggle. This is the battle with the Yetzer Hara. So we have to think about this. How is the Torah the drug against the Yetzer Hara? How does it, just because someone is studying Torah doesn't mean that they could do whatever they want. It's like the father says to the son, whenever you have the Band-Aid on you, you could eat, drink, bathe and shower whatever you want. So does that mean that if we study Torah, we don't have to be worried about the Yetzer Hara at all? What effect does Torah study have on the Yetzer Hara?
Well, the specifics there: eat, that's done with the bracha; drink, that's part of kiddush and so forth; and bathe sounds like mikvah. So all those things could be specific to goodness.
So that could be in the spiritual sense, but in the mashal or the nimshal, it's talking about. It sounds like a physical thing.
Yeah, I'm talking about physical acts that have spiritual goodness to them.
So let's look at the footnote 3. In the parable, the father dealt his son a blow, which created a dangerous wound. To protect the wound, the father applied a special dressing which would allow his son to enjoy the pleasures of life without a fear of infection. By analogy, Hashem dealt Israel a blow in the form of the Yetzer Hara. To protect the people of Israel, Hashem gave them an antidote in the form of the Torah, which would allow them to enjoy the pleasures of the world without fear of sinning. So it's an interesting thing. It's like a balance. Hashem is allowing us to enjoy the pleasures. He's not telling us to abstain, but without sinning. And here they try to explain how it works a little bit. There are two aspects to how Torah acts as an antidote. The first is that naturally, when one studies a specific area of the Torah and becomes aware of severity of a specific sin, he becomes more sensitized to it and will put in much effort to avoid transgressing it. So if someone is learning about a certain avera, that itself helps you not to do it, because you have it in your mind. You know that it's the wrong thing to do. Besides this, there's also a spiritual aspect to this antidote, as studying any part of the Torah will help protect a person from falling into any sin while he is engaged in his studies. There's a certain refinement that the Torah makes on the person, even if you're not talking about a specific avera. Just through studying Torah, that itself refines the person and makes him more distant from sin, distant from averas. Now, the Gemara used a very interesting word over here, that we're comparing the Torah to two things, to a drug and also to a spice. How come, did we miss it when it said over here? Where did it say spice? Oh, why? It's interesting. Why they didn't even translate that? it says, "My sons, I have created the evil inclination, and I have created Torah as its antidote." But if you look in the Gemara, it says, "Barasi Yetzirah," the third line from the bottom, "Barasi Yetzirah, ubarasi loy Torah tavlin." I created the Yetzirah, and I created the Torah as a spice. So this is another comparison. We're not only comparing Torah to a drug, but comparing it to a spice in a food. So what does Torah have to do with a spice?
Spice preserves.
Spice preserves, and it makes the food taste better. Without the spice in the food, it could be pretty plain, pretty
Right, but in biblical times, its most important factor was
to preserve.
preserve.
So what would that mean with regards?
Prevent corrupting you.
So, but are we trying to preserve the Yetzer Hara? It's saying the Torah is a spice.
No, prevent the Yetzer Hara from corrupting you. The pleasures that you indulge in. The Torah protects you from being like food poisoning.
So it's protecting you, but not the Yetzer Hara, though. From the Gemara, it sounds like that the Torah is a spice to the Yetzer Hara, where the Barasi loy Torah tavlin. I created the Torah as a spice for the Yetzer Hara.
Yeah, it seasons the Yetzer Hara to prevent it from doing you harm. The same way spice on meat prevents it from spoiling and doing you harm. So you can eat spiced meat. If it's you can eat meat that would normally harm you. If it's been spiced, it's protected from harming you.
So meat without the spice could be harmful.
Right.
So that's in essence preserving, making the meat better. So here we see that there's really two approaches to the Yetzer Hara. One way is that we want to get rid of the Yetzer Hara. Like we don't want to. We want to just destroy it, get rid of it.
You need the Yetzer Hara.
Why do we need the Yetzer Hara?
You need to eat. You need to drink. You need to have marital relations. I remember somebody telling me if it wasn't for the Yetzer Hara, no man would ever build a house.
Yeah, that's true. So that's why it's very precise that we're comparing the Torah to a spice, because we're not trying to get rid of the Yetzer Hara, we're trying to season it, like you said before. Harness it. We're trying to make the Yetzer Hara be what it should be, meaning to use it only for the good thing. Mm-hmm. And that's why in the mashal, the father said, you could do whatever you want. You could eat, you could drink, you could bathe, but you just need the spice of Torah. You need to have the drug of Torah to make sure that you don't indulge, you don't go too far with it. You always need to have that Band-Aid. You need to have the Torah to make sure the Yetzer Hara is not going too far, or to transform the Yetzer Hara.
My 100-year-old relative lost her appetite for eating and drinking. It became a threat to her life.
So that's that you're saying you need the appetite, you need the Yetzer. So, really the word Yetzer Hara, it's not always bad. Yetzer is the inclination. It's a certain desire. It could become Ra. It could become evil if it's used for the wrong way or an Avera or too much. But in essence, it could be transformed. Now, there's a little problem with this Gemara.
This class, didn't somebody said they married at 15 and wish they'd gotten married at 15?
So how does that connect?
Because you want to be married early so that your Yetzer Hara doesn't become overpowering. So your Yetzer Hara is satisfied at the earliest possible age, so that it never becomes a temptation, interference, or distraction.
Perfect. Yes. So there you see that idea that you're using.
But he wasn't running away from marriage. He was saying, get it done and over with as quickly as possible, and those pleasures will be, routine, mundane, controllable.
Exactly. Yeah. So if we look at the bottom, additional references in the double star, the Chida says, just as spice can change the flavor of food, so to the Torah actually has the ability to change the Yetzer Hara itself. This is a very powerful thing, that Torah study has this effect. And we're talking about the essence of the creation of Torah. Hashem is saying, I created the Torah for this purpose. It's funny, you could ask the question, the father gives the son the strike, and then he gives him a Band-Aid. Why did he have to hit him in the first place? Hashem is giving us the Yetzer Hara, and then He's giving us the Band-Aid, giving us the Torah. Why did He have to, create both? He could have just left it the way it is, without the Yetzer Hara. But we already gave the answer, because it's not that Hashem wants us not to have the temptation. He just wants us to season it. He just wants it, should be channeled in the right place, in the right ways.
Also, didn't we read earlier that it's a father's obligation to discipline the son? So, how do you discipline a son, especially in the old days? You gave him a patch.
Give him a patch.
Spare the rod, spoil the child, is another one. And the rebellious son is another example. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You don't respond to discipline.
Now, a question that we have on this Gemara is, so we just brought a proof from last week's Parsha. It says, Im teitiv se'es. If you will do good, then se'es, you'll be able to overcome Yetzer Hara. How is our Gemara interpreting this? Im teitiv, if you will do good. Im teitiv, if you will study Torah, then you'll be able to overcome Yetzer Hara. But Cain was way before the Torah was given. How could we use this pasuk as a source for, Torah study being the antidote for the Yetzer Hara? Cain didn't have Torah altogether.
That reminds me of a question I have.
What is it?
What moved Cain and Havel to give sacrifices? Why did they think that was the proper thing to do? They weren't commanded to. So what was the inclination that made them want to cut some of their produce or kill some of their animals and burn it?
So they wanted to give a gift to Hashem.
By burning
Kind of
it?
by
Destroying it?
by separating it from yourself. As long as it kind of belongs to you, so then you have it. How do I give it away? So
Set them free, plant them in the wild,
it's
throw them in the lake.
like who else was there? Like wherever you would give it, it might still be yours. So like
Yeah,
how many people were there? Yeah, but that's a good question. A lot of things that they did, like how did they come up with? How did they figure it out? That's a good question. So
The God later says, I don't want your sacrifices if they're not combined with sincere prayer. So then, and good deeds. So then the interesting question is, well, it does say this, Re'ech and food for the Lord and so forth. So it's accepted, but there are other things that we do, like eating meat, that God allows us to do, but aren't necessarily desirable. Only we are commanded to do so on festivals and so forth, but that's because of our inclination to do so in the first place. And slavery and captives and all those other things, and these are things where
they're permitted, but they're not
encouraged. They're not commanded, certainly. And so that was just raised the question to me: is why the original, why the choice by both of them to do that thing, and then of course look what it led to: murder. And it's just a fascinating concept.
I don't know if we could say that it, like bringing the sacrifice caused it. It was because he wasn't accepted. The fact that that's what got him upset.
Had they not brought the sacrifices, there wouldn't have been a lack of acceptance. There wouldn't have been the jealousy. It was a direct series of events. Is what I'm saying. It's something that puzzled me.
That is interesting.
Burned a little in my mind.
So we asked this question. If Cain was before the giving of the Torah, so then how do we bring a proof from this, and that you're able to that Torah has the power to overcome the Yetzer Hara from this pasuk?
Oh, that's right. To have a Yetzer Hara, something has to be bad means something has to be good, and without the Torah, who says what's good and bad? Who says that if you kill an animal to eat, why couldn't you kill a man so he could take his daughter or take whoever, I assume, it wouldn't be marriage yet. So what would differentiate a human from an animal?
Adam and Eve were married.
So basically you're asking, how would Cain even know what's good and what's bad if they didn't have the Torah?
Right.
I guess they were to understand that killing someone is yeah.
No, there's,
The Gemara says that even Adam was commanded on a bunch of mitzvahs. I think
Yeah.
it came to 7 by the time of Noach, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
5 already. There was
Yeah.
already a bunch of mitzvahs.
The only mitzvahs I know are kuru, boo, and don't eat the apple.
But the Gemara says that there's hints to a bunch of other mitzvahs in the words Vayitzav. It says Hashem commanded him on Avodah Zarah and other things like that. So the Maharsha answers this question, and he says that in the pasuk, it's kind of repeating itself twice. If you look in that pasuk, it says Im teitiv se'es ve'im lo teitiv la pesach atas roivetz. We read it inside before. If you will do good, you will be able to overcome it, and if not, the sin it's waiting for you at the door. And then it says again, ve'eilecha teshukaso, and its desire is to you, va'atatzim shalbo, and you will be able to overcome it. So it's basically repeating the same theme twice. It's saying, if you will do good, you could overcome it. If you don't, the sin is waiting for you. And then it says, its desire is to you, and you will be able to overcome it. So why is the pasuk repeating itself twice? So the Maharsha says that the first part of the pasuk was said to the Jewish people after the giving of the Torah. The second part was directly to Cain, but the first part of that pasuk is a hint and reference to the Jewish people once we receive the Torah. And this is a whole other.
So which is which?
Im teitiv se'es, the first half, which says if you will do good, you'll be able to overcome it. Doing good is referring to the Torah. That's for the Bnei Yisrael. That's for us.
Good, able to find it, okay.
And the second half, ve'eilecha teshukasoy, that its desire is to you. The Yitzhara's desire is to entice the person to do an avera. V'ata timshel, but you'll be able to overcome it. That was said to Cain. So that's the answer to that question. So let's get a little bit deeper into this tavlin and to the Torah being a spice or being a drug. So here's some copies here. Okay, so we mentioned that Torah is compared to a spice. So this is from the Maggid of Mezrich. And he's quoting a Gemara that says that when a person gets up there, when we come to Gan Eden after 120, what is the first thing that they ask you up there on the second floor over there? They ask you, Nasasa v'nasata be'amuna, which means, have you done business faithfully? The second question they ask is, Kavata itim l'Torah, have you set time for Torah study? So that's the simple and literal understanding of this Gemara. But the Maggid of Mezrich says, Pirush etzarech lisa v'litain, ratzaloymar sheyu kol ha'maisim v'hamachshavos be'amuna. The Mezrich Maggid takes this to another level, and he's saying, it's not saying just to do business faithfully, meaning to keep your word, but your business should be done with belief, with emunah, with belief in Hashem. Ratzalaymar ba'achdus haveri yisbarach, in belief in the unity of Hashem. So what is the connection between the two things? It says, doing business faithfully, and then they ask you, have you set times for Torah studying? They're two separate things. It's business and Torah. What's the connection? So the Mezrich Maggid says that it's a question and an answer. In Taimar Yech Yetzirah, they ask you one question. Did you do your business be'emunah? Were you always believing in Hashem? They say, I have Yetzirah. Comes the second question, did you set times for Torah study? Why? Based on our Gemara. Al derech barasi Yetzirah, barasi lo Torah tavlin. That I made the Torah as an antidote for the Yetzirah. So it's a question and answer, basically. Nasasa v'nasata b'emunah. Did you do your business? Did you live your life with emunah? So then a person might say, but I have Yetzirah. So Hashem says, did you set time for Torah study? That would deal with that. Now, the Maggid comes with a big question here. Hine yesh ledaktik. There's something that we have to look closely at. Halei tavlin heimamamtikim es hatavshil. The spice is what sweetens the dish, or what you're cooking. V'hatavshil hu ha'ikar. The spices is not the main thing. You put a spice in the cholent, but you want the cholent. The spice is just to make it have a flavor. Ubekan halei Torah hi ha'ikar. How could you say that the Torah is a spice for the Yetzer Hara? That's like saying the Yetzer Hara is the main thing and the Torah is secondary. The Torah is only a spice for the Yetzer Hara? That sounds, till now we were discussing, transforming the Yetzer Hara. It's all nice and well, but how could you call Torah a spice? This is something that David, alluded to before. Imasar b'yadayu yitra davera. If Hashem would take away the Yetzer Hara of avera, and here it's referring to, intimacy. If Hashem would take away that yitzer, that desire, afilu beyasa bas yoima lehava ishtaka. The Gemara says you wouldn't even be able to find an egg of one day, just laid that day. You wouldn't be able to find any eggs. Because there has to be the desire to.
Chicken's got a chick.
What?
Chicken's got a chick.
Yep.
Rooster's got a roost.
So now everything has multiple layers. So why is the Gemara saying specifically the words be'asa, an egg, bas yoima, of that day? You wouldn't be able to find that. And the Midrash Maggid takes this in a very spiritual way. There's two types of inspired davenings. There's two types of davenings. Sometimes you prepare yourself. You get yourself inspired. You maybe learn something before davening. You think about, you prepare yourself. You kind of create the inspiration. Ubeis, another type is Mashem Espalal Belishum Hachana. Another type of davening is where it's unprepared. Rak Hazman Hu Agorim. It's such a special time that you just feel inspired. Kamay b'Shabbos on Shabbos v'Yamim Tovim Shaz Hu Ashras HaKedusha Ba'olam. There is this inspiration in the world. There is kedusha in the world. So these are the two types of inspiration. And the Gemara is saying that without the Yetzer Hara, there would not even be the second type of inspiration. There wouldn't even be the automatic inspiration. Because without a Yetzer Hara, without a drive, there is no inspiration. You need a Yetzer Hara. V'zeu afilu beyasa. The word beyasa, ratzalomar tefila. It's interesting, we call it in Hebrew a beitza, but in Aramaic we call it beya. What does the word beya mean? To ask. Tiskabel tzeloisain uva usain. We say Hashem should accept our prayers and requests, uva usain. So the Gemara is telling us that even beyasa, even an egg, even a davening, bas yoima, which is a result of the day, like the Gemara says, an egg of one day, meaning on a deeper level, a davening which is affected by the day, shahazman geirim, lo yeshtakach. We wouldn't be able to find any inspired davening without the Yetzer Hara, even that which has been affected by the day. Ki Yetzer Hara nikra koyach hatayva. The Yetzer Hara is called the power of desire. V'hu hacheshek. It's the drive. It's the inspiration. V'kumoisha adam reitza kach mahapech hacheshek. And based on your desire, that's what your desire is too. Im l'toiv hu mispalel b'cheshek u'b'hislavos. If you turn your Yetzer Hara to davening, then you're going to be davening with excitement, with passion. So what is the Maggid saying over here? How could we say that the Torah is a spice to the Yetzer Hara? Because he's saying without the Yetzer Hara you can't do anything. Without the Yetzer Hara you cannot have an inspired davening. Because the Yetzer just means the desire. But without the Ava, without the love, without the fear, how do you get the inspiration? So you need the Yetzer Hara. So really, the spice is the main thing. The Yetzer Hara is, the Torah is there for the Yetzer Hara. In order to get you inspired, you need to have the Yetzer Hara. So that is really the main thing. It's not a Yetzer Hara anymore, it's when it's used for davening.
Women are usually considered to have more control over their Yetzer Hara than men. And women are not obligated to study Torah. that's
So for a
in contrast to men.
it balances itself out. Because you're saying because they don't have so much of a Yetzer Hara, they're more spiritual, they don't need so much the Band-Aid. We said that it goes together, right?
It does say father and son, it doesn't say parent and child.
Where, regarding,
In the beginning, father gives a wound to the son.
you're saying specifically the son,
Male to male.
male to male. Okay, so this is a very powerful idea over here. It's saying how important the kavana, how important the ava, the love and fear that a person has during davening, that's what causes the Shekhinah to come upon him. And that's why we could call the Torah a spice to that Yetzer, to that desire. And now, we asked a question before, what's the point? Is it like a game? Hashem is making a wound, he's giving us the Yetzer Hara, and then he's giving us the Torah as an antidote. Like, what's the idea over here? So, on the next page here, this is from the Baal Shem Tov. So we're going a little bit backwards from the Mag.
He made some afar, which is impure, and then he breathed ruach into us, which is super kosher. Which is
So this is from the Baal Shem Tov, and he says like this: Gadol Hashem u'mahulo ma'od ve'ir lekeinu har kachis. He says Hashem is great and is praised extensively in the city of Hashem, in the mountain of His holiness. Ve'efshar loymar al pi ma shekasuv Yisrael asher b'cha espire. There's a pasuk that says Yisrael, the Jewish people, that I pride myself in them. Sheyesh leHashem yisbarach hispirus gadol. Hashem takes great pride, v'tainug v'shashua, and great pleasure, v'maisi hatzadik v'im teirasei tfilasei, from the actions of a tzaddik, his Torah study, and his davening. V'amar Razal, and here comes our Gemara, barasi Yetzer Hara, barasi tavlin ze Torah. Hashem created the Yetzer Hara and created the spice, which is the Torah. And the Baal Shem Tov says, what is this Gemara telling us? Ratza loymar, ma'od gedola ahavascha v'chibascha eleinu. This is showing how much Hashem loves us. The Gemara is not just telling us, we need to study Torah. The Gemara is trying to show us how much Hashem loves us. Ata barasa Yetzer Hara, you created the Yetzer Hara, va'ata barasa ha-Torah, and you created the Torah, va'ata noisin banu koyach lichbay ha-Yetzer Hara ulamaskay al yidei Torah. Hashem gave us the power that we should sweeten the Yetzer Hara. So the question is, Hashem created the Yetzer Hara, Hashem created the antidote, the spice, but who's going to cook it? Who's going to make the challenge? Who's going to put the spice into the pot? He's giving it to us. He's not doing it. He's not going to sweeten the Yetzer Hara. He gave it to us. Kumay tavlon l'k'dera, nimtza ha'koil u'mimcha u'mishalcha u'mikaychacha pa'alnu kol zeh. In essence, everything is given to us by Hashem. Hashem gave us the Yetzer Hara. Hashem gave us the spice, but we do it. We put the spice in the Yetzer Hara. Va'afal pikein yesh lecha tainu gadol mizeh, and Hashem still gets pleasure from this. Va'ata mispar banu ki'ilu asinu adavar me'etzem yadeinu. Hashem takes pride as if we did it with our own ability. Ubezeh nikar ava aza. This shows how strong Hashem's love is to us. And this is showing us how we are really compared to children to Hashem. So, Hashem sets it all up for us. He gives us the Yetzer Hara. He gives us the ability to overcome it. But then He takes pride when we overcome it.
And before, in the Gemara, it said that Banim are students.
Right.
So if you say Banim here, Lamakom, you're also saying students to Hashem.
True.
So the teacher knows the answer. He wants the students to get it.
Exactly. So that's V'shinamtam levanecha. It says you teach it to your son. It could also mean your student. And look, the Baal Shem Tov is going to give a mashal of, it's connected to a father's student idea. Mashal leben chaviv eitzel aviv. It's an example of a son which is very dear to his father. Sheba oirach echad lishais as ben bekankanai. There's a guest that came to visit, and he wants to test and challenge the son. He wants to see, what he knows. V'hinei leihaye yachal haben lahavin klal halacha hi mitech goydol oimka v'charifasa. Now the truth is that the son did not know the halacha. Someone's coming to test you. He takes out a Gemara, but the son doesn't really know his stuff. Now, v'hinei mitoich gaidol chiba sa'av alav, lo'haya yachal lisbol tsar b'nai. The father can, handle the pain of his son. Chaviva shu miskasha ma'id ve'ina yachal lahavin. He's like, this is going to be embarrassing. This guy is going to ask my son all these questions, and he's not going to know it. Ma asa aviv. What does the father do? Pasach le'pischa b'hai alacha. The father gives him a hint. He shows him an opening. He shows him a path. V'ha'ara lei es haderech asher yelech ba. He shows him the way. V'asher yetzi v'yave b'shakol v'tarya. He gives him the key. Kim'at asher higid lei kol teichi shel alacha. He almost gave away kind of all the answers. V'hinei ba erachahu lishal oisei alacha v'leshoisei v'fnei aviv. Comes this guest and he says, "No, I have a question here. What's the halacha?" V'hischal loimer halacha. The son starts saying something. V'erach shoyelosei kama shoyelos. And then the guest starts questioning him. And maksha kama kushes. And he starts asking all these difficult questions. V'hu meishiv dobra leifnav. And all of a sudden he has these answers. V'hu meisiv u'mefarik. He's able to explain each question b'seichel zach u'vahir, with a very clear and bright answer. V'aviv raya v'sameach. And the father sees and he's just beaming. He's smiling. He's happy. U'misanig u'mispar mizeh. Now, what is he proud about? He gave the son the answer. Even though the father knows that it's all from his strength, nevertheless, the father gets great pleasure. So the guest sees, the father is getting so much pleasure, so let me ask the kid even a more difficult question. This is a mashal for the Yetzer Hara that says, every day I'm going to try again. Hashem doesn't have enough pleasure from you. Let me try him a different way. The son which is certain and relies on his father, then the son comes with his own power and he answers all the questions. So here the Baal Shem Tov is saying, the Gemara is trying to show how much Hashem loves us. That he's making a whole spiel over here. He's getting the Yetzer Hara to test us. He's giving us the answer. He's giving us the Torah. This is all to show how much Hashem loves us.
He gives us the Torah, but he doesn't put it in our head. We have to study it. So the same thing with the father. He gives the boy what to start with.
Right. He gives him the key.
And then the boy is able to, in our case, learn the Torah. In the boy's case, extrapolate from what he's learned, and therefore he's able to go further.
Right.
So that's where the father really gets pride. Give the boy a start, and then he takes it from there and runs with it. That's huge.
So that's the second part of the mashal, that when the Yetzer Hara or the guest comes and challenges him even more, and then the son is able to go forth with his own power, that's where the real pleasure of the father comes. Just finish off with one last thing. We use the word v'samtem. The word sam, poison. The word sam means poison. So why are we saying over here samtum, that it's a perfect drug? It's kind of like a perfect poison.
There's a medicine and poison is the dose. Is an old expression.
So there is this idea that if you put in some medicine into poison, you could transform the poison and it could become a medicine. Which means you have to know, like you said, the dose. You have to know how much to put in. But there is this idea. Last time, Reuven, you mentioned about the horses, about the venom of the snake.
Oh, yeah.
That you could use it to make the horse run. So also over here, it's really all the same idea. We're talking about transforming the Yetzer Hara. So just like you take a spice and you transform the food, if you take the right drug and you put it on the poison, you could make the poison into a drug of medicine, of cure, of healing. And like it says, Hashem saw on Friday, he saw everything was toiv ma'oid, everything was very good. The Gemara says, toiv, good, is the Yetzer toiv. Toiv ma'oid, very good, is the Yetzer Hara. Because when you transform the Yetzer Hara, it could go much further than the Yetzer Tov. And that ties back to what we said before, that once you have the drive, the kick of the Yetzer Hara, it gets you inspired, you could go much further. So, Tov Moed, very good.
Very nice.
Tov Moed.
I wonder how that ties into the other teaching of Tov Od.